What is going on, Jaguars fans? Welcome back into the Fan Cave. My name is John O'Leary, and I am going to be kind of giving a rundown of how I've thought this season has gone so far. We just crossed the halfway point. We've played 9 games this year, and I figured this would be a great opportunity to give you a rundown. Check back on my first ever video where I gave a prediction for the 2020 season and see how that's correlating to right now. All right. So I did predict that the Jaguars would be 3-6 after leaving Lambeau Field and facing Aaron Rodgers and the Green Bay Packers. Now, I did correctly predict that they would have fallen, but I didn't expect it to be as close of a game as it was. The Jaguars, they fought tough. There was a lot of fight in this game. The entire time you were kind of watching it, and you could just see that the Jaguars were outmatched physically and skill level wise, but they fought hard. That's what you want to see, competitive football regardless. I'm on Team Tank, but at the same time, I want to be entertained for the 3 hours I sit there and almost hope for my team to lose for the betterment of our future. I did have the team at 3-6 leaving Lambeau, but unfortunately, I guess depending on how you look at it, the team's 1-8. We're currently sitting in sole possession of the second pick in the 2021 NFL draft, and we're in prime Justin Fields territory. Now, if the Jets were to win a game, the Jaguars would be vaulted into that number one position based off of their weaker strength of schedule currently, as it sits, leaving this week. Now, as we pause and we look at the season as it's unfolded so far, this team is 26th in the NFL in total offense with points scored. James Robinson has been the workhorse of this team. DJ Chark has been battling injuries. Keelan Cole has been a surprising rejuvenation of his going into his contract year. Now James is doing very, very well this year. He's 9th in the league in yards per attempt. And mind you, one of the people ahead of him is quarterback Kyler Murray. So you could even look at it, he's 8th in the league in yards per attempt with running backs. He's also 5th in total rush yards. Now, I think that says a lot about how the Jaguars are using him. I believe that if they were to up it from their 31% play call of run plays, they would be able to actually stay in games and they would be able to actually contend for some wins, although I would rather them not. And I would hope that in the future, if Jay Gruden does retain or does stay on this team going into the 2020 season, that he does incorporate a lot more run plays for James Robinson. Now, also, I mentioned Keelan Cole. He has 4 touchdowns on the year. He also has a punt return. That's 5 total touchdowns on the year. Keelan Cole is going into a big year for him. Last year, the team put the second round tender on him, and this year they're going to be looking to almost. I would look to re-sign Keelan Cole. He has proven to be a very, very good number 2 or number 3 wide receiver on this football team, and also a huge special teams asset. Especially at the bottom half of depth charts, even after the second wide receiver, you want to see some additional value. And I absolutely believe that Keelan Cole offers that in the punt and kickoff return area of the football game. Now to some negative stuff about this offense. We desperately need a franchise quarterback. Desperately. Now, whether it's Bryce Young out of BYU, if we're lucky enough to get Trevor Lawrence, if we luck into Justin Fields, hopefully we don't get Trey Lance. I don't want him at all. I think he's a bad Carson Wentz. Yes, he plays at North Dakota State. They're a great team in the FCS, but go have fun somewhere else, not in Jacksonville. Now, I do believe that if we can target a very, very good tight end in the draft as well, that'll really help out whatever quarterback we get. But in all honesty, this team goes nowhere, and we stay in this perpetual just rolling and tumbling of despair and mediocrity that this team has been shrouded in for 20 of the 25 years it's existed. This team will not go anywhere without a franchise quarterback, a true legitimate franchise quarterback that stays with the team, not the one we traded for, not one we just signed in free agency, one we home grow from the draft to one day when he's putting on a gold jacket in Canton, Ohio. Now on to the really, really bad part of this team. The defense. This defense is 31st in the NFL in points allowed, and it just seems like you're hoping and praying that they can get a stop when you look at some other defenses in the league and you know that if they go out and it's in a sticky situation, they're going to put up a fight. this defense at points just looks to be like a wet napkin, you know? Like, there's just the 4-year-olds at the kid's birthday party that have this wet napkin and they're just throwing it around, doing whatever they want, just poking holes in it, drawing on it. They can't stop anything. They couldn't stop a nosebleed with a tampon stuck up their nose. They have nothing. They can't stop it. Now, a lot of this has to do with the fact that 2 first-round draft picks on this defensive line, 3 rather, aren't performing well at all. Josh Allen, who was a big part of the 2019 defense, where he accumulated a good amount of sacks for a rookie defensive lineman, now currently sitting at the 9-game mark of the season for this Jaguar team, only has 2.5 sacks. Now, mind you, you might say 2.5 sacks and he's hurt. That's pretty good. I'm going to caveat that with saying, no, they were both pity sacks. Ryan Fitzpatrick and Joe Burrow both wanted to keep the clock rolling in their game as they were trying to run out the clock at the end of the game. They gave up pity sacks. Josh Allen was just the first one to touch them. That's why Josh Allen got those sacks. Now, you look at that and say he's only had a half sack. Yes, and that was a half sack that wholeheartedly should not have gone to him. It's slipping my mind right now who it was, but that other player was there first. He just kind of jumped on the pile. Josh Allen, I understand he's playing with a bit of an injury, but we need to see more out of him. Now, with that same tone and energy, Caleb on Chaisson, where are you at, bro? There's days where you and I have the same stat line for the game. That's saying something. You have less than 15 tackles. 15. There are undrafted free agent defensive tackles that are registering more tackles than you are for the season. And they've only played a handful of games. Meanwhile, you've played consistent snaps in all of the games. Where are you at, man? I understand you played at a 3-4 whenever you played at LSU, but you're up to the big leagues now, man. You got to get it together. Let's go. Now, hopefully they stand you up. I'm hoping they do. I'm hoping this team goes to a 3-4 next season, gets out of this dreaded 4-3 that they've been playing in for God knows how long because they can't fire Todd Wash. But I hope, and I hope, and I hope that when they stand you up and hopefully go to a 3-4 next year, that you really, really shine and you show why you were a first-round draft pick and you start earning that money because Lord knows those first-round draft picks, they're getting paid. All right? Let's do it, man. Let's bring a title to Jacksonville. But it starts with you two, and y'all need to get some pressures on these quarterbacks. All right. We talked about the defensive line. Let's go back to those linebackers. Joe Schobert and Miles Jack are both having good years. Miles Jack is performing at what could be a first-team All-Pro level. He's performing at a almost surefire Pro Bowl level. He is playing out of his mind. Moving him back outside was one of the greatest things this franchise could have done for his career and for this defense. Meanwhile, Joe Schobert, people are ragging on him, but I look at him the way I look at Andrew Norwell. He's a very, very good football player, but when he screws up and he misses something, it's bad. It's just bad. And I think with both of them having over 60-plus tackles this season, and I believe Joe Schobert actually was the other half of that sack that I was talking about with Josh Allen. He's performing very, very well. And I'm very happy that he was brought in. That way we could push out Miles Jack to the outside and really see what both of them have to do. I'm honestly very pleased with how this linebacking core has played so far this year. All right, we've talked about the defensive line. We've talked about the linebackers. Let's talk about the cornerback position out there in that secondary. Let's talk about C.J. Henderson. I believe C.J. is a very, very good corner. He just needs time. Now, would it have been great to have an A.J. Boye for him to shadow for a year? Wouldn't it have been awesome to never even needed to draft him with keeping Jalen Ramsey, but bygones are bygones, I guess. C.J. needs time. And we knew coming into the draft that he was the best outside of Jeff Okudah. He was the best that there was to get and at the 5 and up position, at the 5 and up spots in the draft. And he was touted as a ready to play, and I will say he is. He's done very good things, but at the same time, with his very high highs, he's had bottom of the barrel, scraping it, maybe even underneath the barrel. They put the barrel on top of him, so he was so bad in some games. and he just needs time. That I feel like that with maturity in this league, with more experience, he's been playing against top tier elite level wide receivers. I think he performed very, very well playing against who's performing at an all pro level this year as well with Devontae Adams in Green Bay. I think he played very, very well against him. He did have a couple big plays on him, but overall he played well. And I do believe that C.J. Henderson, given time, could be a Pro Bowler for this football team in 4 to 5 years. All right, Jaguars fans, I hope you enjoyed my little recap of the season thus far. It's been fun. I'm looking forward to the final 7 games. I'm really hoping that we can end up with this 1, 2, or 3 spot. Hopefully 1 or 2 end up in the draft and either bring Trevor Lawrence or Justin Fields on home down to Duval County and put them in some teal and black. I think they'll look great. But as always, stay safe and go Jaguars.